या देवी स्तूयते नित्यं विबुधैर्वेदपारगैः सा मे वसतु जिह्वाग्रे ब्रह्मरूपा सरस्वती। नमामि नारायणपादपङ्कजं करोमि नारायणपूजनं सदा वदामि नारायणनामनिर्मलं स्मरामि नारायणतत्त्वमव्ययम्. Invoking the grace of Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayappan, Mahaperiva and Guru Parampara, we are now entering into Dasakam 11. And last time we completed the verse number 1, the literal meaning of the verse, and also chanted the verse. We'll go into a little more detail of this verse. In this verse it was mentioned that Sanagadikas, the rishis, the great sages, they entered the abode of, they wanted to see Vaikunta and see Lord Vishnu. So while the creation was gradually progressing, she mentioned Kramena Sarge Parivardhamani, means the creation which is talking about is the what is mentioned in the previous Dasaka 10th verse, talking about the Brahmaji himself splitting as male and female, Manu and Satarupa. So when that creation was gradually progressing, the Sanagadikas, who are the 4 Manasaputras and who are the Jnanis, the liberated souls, they entered, they wanted to see the Lord in Vaikunta. So they went to Vaikunta to see and pay respects to the Lord. That's what the first verse talks about. It should be here understood that these Sanagadikas are nothing but they are the Adi Purushas, because after Brahma was dissatisfied with the earlier creation, he created from his own mind the Sanagadikas. They are Jnanis, they are not involved in the creation or Srishti Karma, and therefore they have easy access to Vaikunta. You have to see that way. So they are the devotees of the Lord. They are the Siddhas or Jivan Muktas, liberated souls. They can be called also as the Atma Ramas, one who are happy with oneself, and Jitendriyas, Atindriyas, like that. So they transcended the senses also. So people only of such jnanis can enter the Vaikunta. That is implication here. And therefore the desire of them for them to enter Vaikunta was there, to see the Lord. Vaikunta is called as the Param also, as the Vishishtadvaita philosophy. The abode is Nityam or eternal, and it symbolizes the self-effulgent Paramatma. So the sages who were introverted and they were Samadhistaha, established in the knowledge of the self, they have easy access to Vaikunta. Therefore, Vaikunta, as mentioned, we saw in the Vishnu Sahasranama also, which refers to both the Lord also as well as the abode also. The Lord who is free from obstacles, and the Lord is Suguna, and hence free from all negative traits like sorrows, fear, anger, etc. So it is but natural, therefore, for the Sanagadikas to see the Vaikunta, because they themselves were Jnani. So it is the seat of Parabrahman himself, we have to see that way. And therefore Sanagadikas sages went to Vaikunta to see the Lord. That's how we have to see this verse. Now we will go into the verse number 2. Manoknyanai shreyasa kananadyaihi anekavapi manimandiraischa anopamam tam bhavato niketam munishwaraha prapuratita kakshyaha. The Anvaya is like this: Munishwaraha atita kakshyaha manoknyanai shreyasa kananadyaihi manoknyam naisreyasakyam kananam adyam yesham taihi. That's how it is, Vitpatti is there. Then aneka vapi mani mandiraiha cha means, and bhavataha anopamam bhavataha tam niketam prapuhu. This is the Anvaya. So we'll give the meaning of this. Munishwaraha. Munishwaraha means the great sages, the 4 sages talked about in the previous verse. Atita Kakshyaha, having crossed the enclosures or the ramparts, the 6 barriers or enclosures. Now 6 is not mentioned here, but it is there in the Bhagavata. They crossed the 6 ones. Manoknyanai shreyasa kananadhyaihi. The Manoknyanai means with the enchanting. Kanana means here the garden. The name of the garden is called Naishreyasa, etc. Manoknyayai Shrenana Shreyasa Kananadyahi. That means Manoknyam Naisreyasakyam Kananam. The name of that is called Naisreyasa. So the garden is called Naisreyasa. Aneka Vapi Mani Mandiraischa means with many lakes and mansions of gems, precious gems. Anupamam, incomparable. Bhavataha Tam Nikedam, that abode of thine, Prapuhu, they approached. So those great sages, after crossing the 6 enclosures or ramparts, approached that abode of thine, which is incomparable because of the enchanting garden called Naisreyasa, and which has many lakes, mansions built with gems, etc. These are the words described here. The word Naisreyasa is very striking here. In one of the Upanishads is mentioned that there are 2 paths followed by any person. One is the path of prayas, another is called the path of Shreyas. The person who follows the path of prayas, he goes for the pleasant path. That means he indulges himself only in the materialistic level with arthakamas, with senses and securities, which ultimately do not give any happiness. The person who seeks the path of prayers grows spiritually and gains the antakarna shuddhi and finally gains the jnanam and the liberation. And therefore here the word Naisreyasa, here it means mukti. This word is very important. These gardens, etc., are very divine. Where one enters, one gains mukti. That's how the implication is given here. So, here in Vaikuntha, all the objects here are beautiful, they are divine and indestructible. These are 3 things which you should see here. So, they are talking about the many lakes, the gardens with splendid flowers which cover all the ritus, and also the precious gems they talk about also, the mansions of gems. So all these symbolize that which is something very unique. They are ecstatic and they give joy, complete joy. So it gives an impression that it is a place of mukti or liberation, where there is fullness and eternal happiness. That is the impression given here when you use the word Naisreyasa. So when one enters a Vaikuntha, it gives that kind of a thing. So it is a divine world transcending time and space. Vaikuntha represents limitlessness also. So Lord Vishnu is pure Brahman, therefore Vaikuntha and this abode, the Lord are one and the same. So to enter the place where Lord is resting, one has to cross the 7 enclosures. In fact, the Sanagadikas, they have crossed the 6th and they are entered in the 7th enclosure and they are yet to enter the Vaikuntha. Now, this 7 represents also for a yogi. In the Hatha Yogi, they talk about the Kundalini Chakri crossing over all the 6 chakras: Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipuraka, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Ajna Chakra. Finally enters the Sahasrara. Sahasrara is the place where the union of the Jiva with the Paramatma, Shiva with the Sakhya. It is in that Sahasrara where one realizes in the Sahasrara thing, the person realizes in his own person the individual and separate existence of the soul from the body. So the Vaikuntha is like that, the 7th enclosure. We talk about the place where there is a total union of the Jiva with the Lord. And that is the kind of a vision. That's why it is talked about 6 enclosures they have crossed and they are entering into the 7th enclosures. So that is where it is talked about. It is therefore can be called as the Mukti Pada gained in the form of vision of the Lord. And this is being specifically mentioned here because this Vaikuntha was mentioned earlier also as a place where one gains complete happiness, and when assumes all the devotees who enter the Vaikuntha, they assume the father of the Ishvara and then gain the Sayujya. So here also Sanagadikas, they after crossing the 6, they entered that abode. They have up to abode they enter thine, but this Vaikuntha is described in this manner. So they are going to enter the Vaikuntha. That's how the verse number 2 ends. Then we go into the verse number 3. Bhavadikshun Bhavanam Bibikshun Dvastai Jajastan Vijayepyarundam Tesham Chachitte Padamapakopaha Sarvam Bhavat Preranayeva Bhuman Bhavat Didrikshun Bhavanam Bibikshun Dvastau Jayastan Vijayopyarundham Tesham Chachitte Padamapakopaha Sarvam Bhavat Preranayeva Bhuman. I will read once more for clarity. Bhavat Didrikshun Bhavanam Bibikshun Dvastau Jayastan Vijayopyarundham Tesham Chachitte Padamapakopaha Sarvam Bhavat Preranayeva Bhuman. The Anvaya is like this. Bhavat Didrikshun Bhavanam Bibikshun Tan Dvastau Jayaha Vijayaha Api Arundham Tesham Chitte Kopaha Padam Apacha. Bhuman, he Bhuman, Sarvam Bhavat Preranaya Eva. This is how I read it. Bhavat Didrikshun means who were desirous of seeing thee. Bhavanam Bibikshun, and about to enter thy abode. Tan, them, that means the sages. Dvaha Stau, Jayaha Vijayaha Api. Jaya and Vijaya, the gatekeepers. Arundham, stopped. Tesham Chitte, in the mind of the sages. Kopaha Padam Apacha, anger entered. He Bhuman, O infinite one. Sarvam Bhavat Preranaya Eva. Preranaya Eva is a sandhi, so Bhavat Preranaya Eva. All this was only due to thy prompting or sankalpa. The meaning of this will be like this. The gatekeepers, Jaya and Vijaya, stopped the sages who were about to enter thy abode, desirous of seeing thee. This made the sages angry. O infinite one, all this happened due to thy prompting alone. So in this verse, it is mentioned here that the sages have come at the entrance of the Vaikuntha. It means, so they cross the 6 barriers or enclosures and they are standing on the 7th enclosure and about to enter Vaikuntha. At that time, Jaya and Vijaya, they stopped. Now, the word used is Bhavat Didrikshun, he says, who were desirous of seeing. The Didrikshun means the intense desire to see the Lord. That is the state of a devotee or a jnani who has reached the highest level in terms of gaining the knowledge. The desire to see the Lord or to see oneself. That's why Didrikshun is mentioned here. Intensity of the desire is talked about. And they are about to enter. At that time, the Jaya Vijayas are the gatekeepers. They obstructed. And when they obstructed, the sages got angry. Now, one may wonder that sages who are jnanis, they should not get angry in the normal course. And it seems like they can always keep calm. So, they got angry. So, the Bhattatripad gave a reason here, mentioning that they got angry because it is your sankalpa that they have to get angry. It is not that they really got angry. It is mentioned in one verse that in the case of jnanis, the anger is only for a kshana. Uttame kshanikam kobham, it is mentioned. Kshana means it is 4/5 of a second. It is for a short duration. They get angry for a particular reason, for a particular purpose, and then they forget about it. Whereas in the case of ordinary person, it is mentioned as amaranantakam. It is there till the end. It is not like that. Because they are getting angry for a particular reason, and the anger does not affect them. Inside they are always calm. Here, the Lord inspired them to get angry, means prompted them to get angry, because Lord wanted, because we'll see subsequently what the avatars have to take place. The Lord has to take avatara, and for that purpose, this kind of a drama episode was staged. So Lord prompted the sages to get angry. So the sages as though got angry, we have to see that way, so that they are able to fulfill the desire of the Lord. we'll see what is that kind of desire of the Lord which made the Lord to make them angry in the subsequent verses. So the sages got angry. So sages as though got angry. They were always calm inside. So when they were obstructed, they made a present. They looked as though they were angry, because in that anger only then the curse will come. Because when the curse comes, then only the avatars takes place. So for the purpose of giving a curse, the sages as though got angry, and this anger also is due to the Bhavat Preranayeva woman. Everything happens due to the inspiration of the Lord or the prompting of the Lord. Nothing happens without this. Many a time we see that we plan so many things, but it doesn't happen. Sometimes it happens suddenly also. Everything happens. So we have to remember in life also. This verse is very important. Bhavat Preranayeva woman. Whenever we meet any situations, sometimes they are favorable, sometimes they are not favorable. Favorable or unfavorable, we should understand that everything is Ishvara's glory. And it is all His Sankalpa that makes it possible, not possible. A simplistic thing may become difficult sometimes. Difficult things sometimes become easy also. If His Sankalpa, His grace is there, it happens. If it doesn't happen, we have to accept with the Prasada Buddhi saying that is His Sankalpa. So here also, that it is His Sankalpa that made the sages angry, as though angry, and the verse ends in this manner. And we'll go to the verse number 4 in the next session. Bhave bhave yatha bhaktihi Padayosthabhajayate Tada Krusha Devesha Natastam Yoyata Prabhu Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarvabha Pranasanam Pranamo Dukkha Samanaha Tam Namami Harimbaram. Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan Namaste Hariyo. Ya Devi Stuyade Nityam Vibudhair Veda Paragaihi Same Vasadu Brahma Rupa Saraswati. Namami Narayana Pada Bangajam Karumi Narayana Pujanam Sada Vadami Narayana Namadrimalam Smarami Narayana Tattvam Abhyayam. Invoking the grace of Goddess Saraswati, Guru Vairappan, Mahapiriva and Guru Parampara. We are now on Dasakam 11 and completed verse number 3 in the last session. In verse number 2, it was mentioned that the Sanagadigas, after crossing the 6 ramparts or barriers, approached the Vaikunta. Now these 6 enclosures we can also see from a different perspective also in terms of spiritual progress. When a person travels through the path of prayers, what is pleasant, one is subject to the 6-fold enemies, Shadripavaha, which are Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mata, Matsarya. Kama is uncontrolled desire, born of attachments. Krodha is when a desire is not getting fulfilled, it transforms into anger. Lobha is when a desire gets fulfilled, it gets transformed into greed. Greed means the desire to have more and more of it. Then both this Krodha and Lobha deals to what is called Moha. Moha in short means delusion, ignorance, false understanding, etc. are Moha. When a person is in Moha, that state is called Brahma. Brahma is Moha, delusion. Brahma is knowledge. So in ignorance, one is in Brahma. Brahma means the delusion makes a person the wrong things see as right, and the right is not seen at all. So in delusion, one loses the intellect also, and one loses the memory also. So this delusion further causes 2 more problems in the form of Mata and Matsarya. Mata means pride, Dhamba, etc. Mata means pride. The pride because of a complex problem, meaning superiority complex, which leads to pride, understanding that I am greater than someone. And Matsarya, Mata is the pride, and Matsarya causes the arrogance also. Jealousy also. Jealousy is born of inferiority complex. Matsarya involves comparing with another person and feeling myself small because the other person is greater than me. It causes jealousy. So Mada and Matsarya, because of the delusion only it causes, and it disturbs the state of the mind. So these 6-fold enemies, they are in the one has to go through when one goes through the path of what is called prayers, what is pleasant. To to overcome these sixfold enemies, one should gain what is called sixfold sampattis. The sixfold enemies also can be called as asurika sampat. The sixfold sampat, that is Daivika sampat, one has to gain to overcome these enemies are nothing but Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha and Samadhanam. Sama means Mano Nigraha, mastery over the mind. Dama is Indriya Nigraha, that means control of the external organs, both the organs of knowledge as well as organs of action. Uparama means Swadharma Anushtanam. This is what Shankaracharya has mentioned in the Tattva Bhava. I am reproducing that only. When one does the Anushtana, one gains a mental equipoise. That is called the Uparama. And Titiksha is the endurance capacity to overcome the pleasure and pain, cold and heat, etc., the dvandas in life. And Shraddha is the faith in the words of scriptures, in the words of Guru, faith in God, all this come under Shraddha. And finally is what is called the Samadhanam, which is called Chitta Ekagrata, having a mind which is committed to the pursuit of the higher thing. Chitta Ekagrata is very much essential for gaining the self-knowledge. It is a case of Upasana Vritti. So all these sixfold sampattis enable a person to overcome the sixfold enemies Rupavaha, and then one gains what is called freedom from samsara. Samsara is bondage. Twofold bondage is taking place because of the ignorance. One is called the intellectual bondage. In intellectual bondage, one understands myself as the body. I belong to the body. I belong to the mind. Since this is called intellectual, a wrong conclusion about myself. Whereas I am not the body, still that conclusion leads. That is because that causes this ahankara. And then there is a mamakara, that is called the emotional bondage, where my understanding is that here I belong to the body, there I say they belong to me, the attachments in the forms of possession, status, etc. All this causes what is called the emotional bondage, which causes sukha and dukkha, pleasures and pains. So one has to be free from both these kinds of bondages. Attachment causes bondage. Love does not cause bondage. Krishna says clearly in Bhagavad Gita, love is called sneha, attachment is called abhisneha. So when one travels through the path of Shreyas, one goes spiritually, gain these six sampattis, and whereby one can fight over these six enemies. And then enter the Vaikunta, the abode of the Lord. There you see the Jaya and Vijaya. These Jaya and Vijayas are represented as the freedom from the intellectual slavery, and freedom from emotional slavery is represented by Jaya and Vijaya. Only one gains from freedom from this bondage, from this samsara, one can gain the Atmajnanam, one can gain the Paramatman, the God. So the God is the Vaikunta, the abode of the Vaikunta. And this is how we can see this verse also, that the rishis, they crossed over the six ramparts and were at the gates of the Vaikunta. This is how the verse concluded now. Now we are going on to the verse number 4 of Dashaka 11. Vaikuntalokanu chita pracheshtau kashtau yuvam daityagadim bhajetam iti prasaptau bhavadashrayau harismritir nostvidine matusman. Vaikuntalokanu pracheshtau kashtau yuvam daityagatim bhajetam iti prasaptau bhavadashrayau harismritirno stvitine matusman. The Anvaya is like this. Vaikuntalokanu pracheshtau kashtau yuvam Daityagatim bhajetam iti bhavadashrayau naha harismritihi astu iti tan nematuhu. This is how the Anvaya. Vaikunta lokanuchita prachastau, whose conduct does not befit one in Vaikunta. That is referring to the context of Jaya Vijaya. Kashtau yuvam, you to wicked persons or who cause problems. Daitya gajim bhajeta, may you become Daitya, means the Asuras. Iti, thus cursed, Bhavadashrayavtau, they, Jaya and Vijaya, who were devoted to thee, Naha Harismritihi astu, may we remember Hari, Iti tan nematuhu, saying so, they prostrated before them. A curse to the effect, may you too, wicked persons, whose conduct does not befit residents of Vaikunta, become embodied on earth as, or born on earth as Asuras, being pronounced by the sages. This is the curse. Jaya and Vijaya, who were devoted to thee, prostrated before the sages, praying, may we always remember the Lord. This is how the verse goes. In verse 3, we saw that the Jaya and Vijaya stopped the sages to enter the Vaikunta, which made the sages angry, and it said that it's all due to your prompting. The verse ended, Sarvam Bhavat Prerana Eva Bhuman. Because of it's all your own inspiration, your own sankalpa that made the sages also get angry, and the Jaya and Vijaya also to prevent the sages from entering the abode. That's how that verse concluded. So the sages got angry. The effect of the angry was the anger got manifested into a form of a curse, and that they should be born on the earth as Asuras. They were cursed. Now we should see this verse in a different perspective here also. That it is not in keeping with Bhagavan or Vaikunta that the sages, that the Jaya and Vijaya should obstruct the rishis. Because you also the Jaya Vijaya are the gatekeepers. That means they have gained the grace of the Bhagavan, and that's why they could be in Vaikunta. And a person of that order should not prevent the rishis who are jnanis to enter the Vaikunta. And therefore the rishis meted out as the punishment as curse. The curse is a punishment for a wrong action. One has to see like that. Although the rishis got angry, that manifestation of anger is only for a rectification of a wrong action. It is like a father getting angry with a son when a son does something wrong. So this kind of anger is a justified anger. It is for correcting the person. We have to see in this perspective. Although we can always say that this is because of the sankalpa of the Ishvara. Now, one who has the Bhagavan smarana always and understanding always the glory of the Vaikunta would not err in this manner. So one may still get a doubt whether it is right on the part of the Sanagadicals to curse them. So the Sanagadikal curse them because they did a wrong action. So this has to be seen from that angle. Now Lord Vishnu, even who accepted the feet of Bhrigu Maharshi, it is told in the Purana, who forcibly thrust his feet on his chest, he had the forbearance and he had the titiksha to accept and also to forgive, the kshama. But due to misplaced thought, which can even come at any time, and which is the asura bhava, one can go wrong. So this ahankara is such a dangerous thing that it can at any time make a person fall. And that is how all the Jaya Vijayas are also devoted to Lord Vishnu. They committed this error because they had thought that they were the bodyguard of Lord Vishnu, and therefore their permission is required before the rishis had to enter. This kind of a thought destroyed their thinking, and that's why they had this asuric thought which made them invoke the grace of the rishis. This is how it is be seen. So therefore they have to come down as asura to destroy the asuric tendencies totally. They requested the rishis that even when they are born in the earth, they should remember the Lord. From this it is implied that at the time when they were in Vaikuntha, the rishis were approaching, that although they were remembering about the Lord at all time, at that moment of time they didn't have the remembrance of God. And that is why that made them, prevented them to rishis to enter. We should see that way also, we can see also that way. That because at this moment they didn't remember the God, the asuric tendency entered into them, and which prevented the rishis, prevented them from allowing rishis to enter Vaikuntha. That's how that thought came. So that is why this asuric tendencies, ahankara tendencies, can destroy a person. Even for a moment, if it comes, it can could be the cause for a downfall. That's what we have to see. And that is why they invoked they got the curse. It should be seen in that manner also. It can be seen also in that manner. So for a sadhaka also, even after reaching the spiritual thought, even a slight remnant of ahankara can pull him down to the lower level. He is implied in the act of Jaya and Vijaya, and that is how Jaya and Vijaya had to come down to the earth to be born as asuras, and then to be free from the hold of ahankara and mamakara. They had to rectify their actions. And that's how this verse concluded. We will now go into the verse number 5 in the next session. भवे भवे यथा भक्तिः पादयोस्तव जायते तदा कुरुष्व देवेश नातस्त्वं नो यतः प्रभो नाम संकीर्तनं यस्य सर्वपापप्रणाशनं प्रणवमो दुःखशमनः तं नमामि हरिं परं नारायण अखिल गुरु भगवन् नमस्ते हरि ओम्। या देवी स्तूयते नित्यं विविधैर्वेदपारगैः सा मे वसतु जिह्वाग्रे ब्रह्मरूपा सरस्वती। नमामि नारायण पादपङ्कजं करोमि नारायण पूजनं सदा वदामि नारायण नाम निर्मलं स्मरामि नारायण तत्त्वमव्ययम्। Invoking the grace of Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayappan, Guru Mahaperiva and Guru Parampara, we are now entering into the verse number 5 of Dasaka 11. Last time we completed verse number 4. Well, a side note, I was talking about the Shadripavaha, where I mentioned of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha and Mata and Matsarya. Mata, I want to clarify a little more. Mata normally means pride only, Manitvam, but Mana also includes the pretense also, the Dhambam and arrogance. All these are the byproducts of Mata. And the word Matsarya has got two different concepts, two different meanings also. First is Matsarya is terms of Asuya. Asuya means jealousy. And born of Asuya is the second meaning of Matsarya, which is called Para Guneshu Dosha Buddhi, means seeing the defect in another person who has got guna. I mean, even in good point, a person who has got jealous will try to find fault with the other person, seeing a defect in goodness. That's how it should be seen. Paraguneshu dosha buddhi. This is the dosha buddhi, the thinking, the seeing. The intellect sees the guna, trying to find out the negative points, even when there are positive points. We say that. This is because of the jealousy. It comes on account of the inferiority complex. One gets a sadistic pleasure. So this actually is the meaning of the word Asuya. And Matsarya is actually jealousy. So Asuya is the byproduct of jealousy in terms of seeing a dosha buddhi in the guna of the other person, which is a sadistic pleasure. This is a vikalpa buddhi, is called Asuya here. So these sixfold enemies causes intellectual and emotional bondage, and one gains the Shat Sampati I talked about last time. Then one gains the Jnanam and is able to attain the feet of the Lord. If you have to see a Lord as a Paramatman. Here, one more thing what is implied here is that both Ahankara and Mamakara have to be surrendered when one has to gain the knowledge of the self, or gain the knowledge of the higher, or gain the lotus feet of the Lord. Surrender implies automatically connecting oneself to the infinite or the higher self. In the case of individual also, surrender implies means myself, relating myself to as the Sakshi Pradhana Atma instead of the Ahankara Pradhana Anatma. When one chants how do we surrender? By chanting the name of the Lord. When you chant the name of the Lord, the mind gets purified and both the Ahankara and Mamakara gets sublimated, which is called the Parabhakti. In Narada Bhakti Sutra also they talk about Parabhakti. Parabhakti is Swayam Phalarupa. The bhakti is for the sake of bhakti. Means my bhakti is not for any kamyartha, for attaining some material ends, but for gaining the feet of the Lord, or surrendering to the Lord, or gaining the higher nature and knowledge of the self. That's how it has to be seen. Now we saw in that verses, therefore, the verse number 4 concluded saying that the sages cursed the son of Jayavijaya and said that he will be born on the earth. And then they as asuras. And Jayavijayas, of course, they prostrated the sages saying that even when we are born on the earth, may we always remember the Lord. Please bless us. Like that, the verse number 4 entered. We concluded that verse number 4. Now we'll go into the verse number 5. Tadetadajnaya bhavanavaptaha sahaiva lakshmya bahirambujaksha kagheswara sarpidacharubahu anandayamsta nabhiramamurtya tadetadajnaya bhavanavaptaha sahaiva lakshmya bahirambujaksha Kageshwaram sarpidacharubahu anandayamsta nabhirama murtya. The Anvaya is like this. Ambujaksha or He Ambujaksha Bhavan tad etat ajnaya Lakshmiya saha eva Kageshwaram sarpidacharubahu. Kageshwaram is Garuda, Hamsaham is the shoulder. Means Garuda on the shoulder of the Lord. So Kageshwaram Sarpita Charubahu. Then Abhirama Murtya Tan Anandayan Bahihi Avaptaha. This is how the Anvaya goes. Meaning is, Hey Ambujaksha, O lotus-eyed Lord, Bhavan, thou, Tat etat ajnaya, knowing this, Lakshmiya saha eva, with Lakshmi herself, Kageshwaram sarpita charubahu, Kageshwara amsaha arpita charubahu, placing thy charming arm, charubahu means charming arm, on the shoulder of Garuda. Amsa is shoulder. Kageshwara amsa arpita charubahu, placing thy charming arm on the shoulder of Garuda. Abhirama Murtya, in a beautiful form. Tan Anandayan, delighting the sages. Bahihi Avaptaha, did come out. Meaning is, O lotus-eyed Lord, knowing what had happened, thou did come out along with Lakshmi Devi with thy charming arm on Garuda's shoulder, enchanting in appearance, and pleased the sages. That's how the meaning goes here. Here now, symbolically it is now talked about as the Lord as Ambujaksha. Ambujaksha means one is lotus-eyed. The lotus-eyed means the Lord is represented as the lotus-eyed. The lotus, as we have seen, represents the beauty also, and lotus represents also the knowledge. So the Lord is all-knowing knowledge, and the Lord is also the beauty also. So the Ambujaksha means beautiful and graceful. Prasadatmaka, we can say. And it also symbolizes Ananda, means the Jnana Suruva. So Lord is manifest before the Sanat Kumara after knowing that Sanakadigas were disrespected by Jayavijaya. When Jayavijaya disobeyed the Sanakadigas, the Lord came out. And it's mentioned here also, Lakshmi is also present with Lord. Lakshmi represents, of course, the brilliance of the Lord, and Lakshmi along with Garuda came. Now, both Lord came out along with Garuda and Lakshmi, means both Lakshmi and Garuda are nothing but the Paramatma Chaitanya. So, it can be seen as way that all of them came out to bless the sages. This is how the verse goes here. And the Lord's enchanting in appearance, beauty is talked about here. It should be seen here again actually. Symbolically, sages, it is implied that they temporarily seem to have forgotten their higher nature and got attached to the Ahankara Vritti, which caused obstruction for them in entering the Vaikunta, because Jaya and Vijaya obstructed them. And as a result of that, this resulted in a curse on the sages. Now, when Lord appeared before them, they realized their folly and regained their higher nature. It could be seen that way also. Or it could be put different way also, that they momentarily lost themselves, got attached to the lower nature because of the temporary Ahankara, and when they realized their folly, the Lord appeared before them. Lord appeared before them along with Lakshmi and Garuda. Lakshmi and Garuda, as I said, are reflections of the Paramatma Chaitanya only. Hence, Lord manifested along with Lakshmi and Garuda. Garuda, of course, is the Vahana of Lord Vishnu. So they have manifested to bless the rishis and delighted them, causing happiness to Rishi. The happiness is because Lord's appearance itself is enchanting. So the presence itself caused happiness, and the sages were pleased with the Lord's presence. They had a darshan of the Lord. That's how this verse entered. Now we'll go into the next verse. Prasadya girbihi stuvato munindran anyananatha ananyanatha vada parshadautau samramba yogena bhavaistribhirmam upedamityata kribam nyagadhihi prasadya girbihi stuvato munindran ananyanathavata parshadautau samramba yogena bhavaistribhirmam upeta mityata kripam nyagadihi. The Anvaya is like this. Ata stuvataha munindran. The sages who are praising the girbihi prasadya, delighted with the verse, ananyanatau, who did not have any other refuge, tau parshadau, to those two attendants, yuvam, you too, samramba yogena, by the path of confrontation, tribihi bhavaihi, in 3 lives, mam upetam, attain me, iti thus, attakripam, with compassion, nyagadihi, thou didst say. So the meaning goes like this. Then, delighting with thy words the sages, who are praising thee, thou did with compassion tell thy 2 attendants, that is Jaya Vijaya, who had no refuge other than thee, saying, you will attain me by the path of confrontation in 3 lives. Here the Lord manifested, and sages prostrated to Lord and sang his glory. The Lord was blessed. Lord made them happy with his sweet words. Here one more word is about Jaya Vijaya. Jaya Vijaya had no other shelter because they sought refuge in Lord all the time. And hence the Lord became compassionate. The Lord came out to also to grace, to bless the Jaya Vijaya also, because they momentarily forgot the name of the Lord. And that's how they prevented the sages from entering. That's how it could be seen. And therefore, it was a momentary lapse only. Therefore, they were all along thinking of Lord. They are Ananya. The word Ananya is very important because it should be Ananya Bhakta. So, Ananya Natha, for them the only refuge is Lord. So, therefore, the Lord also wanted to be compassionate to them. So, therefore, Lord blessed them and compassionately said that you will attain me after 3 births as asuras to Sambramba Yoga and then reach Vaikunta. Now the 3 births which are mentioned here, it is not mentioned here, but which we will see subsequently are the Jaya Vijaya were reborn as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha first, then as Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and then finally as Shishupala and Dantavaktra. Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga and Dwapara Yuga. In 3 yugas they were born in as asuras. So they were born as asuras. Now the word Sambramba Yoga is used. The word Sambramba Yoga means, the word Sambramba means Samyak Ramba, means fully. Ramba denotes anger or hatred, causing enmity totally. So they took the birth as the enemies of the Lord. That they wanted to reach the feet of the Lord first. So therefore they said that they would like to have short births. So the Lord said that only 3 births you remain totally as enemies. Otherwise, sages, as per the sages' curse, they are to remain as asuras for long in the earth. So they didn't want to remain because they have sought shelter in their Lord only. So that is why they sought the grace of the Lord to shorten the duration of their return to Vaikunta. Now, this out of that they have no other refuge other than Lord, and out of compassion, Lord took the 3 births. It's very significant here. Now, the Sambramba Yoga, the word yoga is very significant here. The word yoga has got many meaning. In Sanskrit, one dhatu has got many meanings. Dhatu nam aneka arthavan is the thing. The word yoga primarily means to unite. And the word yoga also means Vishaya. It's the subject matter. Like we have in Bhagavad Gita, Vishada Yoga, the subject matter of grief. That is the first chapter. Or in the 12th chapter, we have got the Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. The yoga also means discipline. Like we find in the Hatha Yoga and even in Patanjali Yoga, where they talk of bodily and also mental discipline, whereby mind gains the ekagrata, vishwa or samadhana in the Shat Sampati. So the word yoga also has got means, Vishaya means also discipline, but the primary meaning of the word yoga means to unite. The word here used is Sambramba Yoga. The yoga is there used because they were never separate from the Lord. All the time they were thinking of the Lord. Momentarily, Jaya Vijayas forgot their higher nature and had ahankara. That's why they got separated. So therefore, the births are basically meant for making them back unite with the Lord. So therefore, they took these 3 births with the main objective of coming back to Vaikunta. So that is the mention here. And Sambramba Yoga, that's why the word yoga is used. That means to unite with the Paramatma and the Lord. So Jaya Vijayas momentarily got separated because of the curse, and therefore they wanted to come back because they had no other refuge other than the Lord. So they wanted a birth to be taken where they remember the Lord through hatred. Dvesha, it means. Saramba means Dvesha also is the hatred. With an attitude that they cannot be separated from the Lord. And thinking of Lord at all times, even when there were asuras. The intense desire is to go back to the Lord and enter Vaikunta. It is with this attitude they sought the grace of the Lord, and the Lord graced them, saying that you will attain me by the path of confrontation in 3 lives. So basically it's a drama enacted whereby it is mentioned that when you succumb to ahankara, so many problems arise in this manner. Even the rishis momentarily forgot their higher nature. The Sanakadikas also prevented. Their anger turned into a curse, and the Lord himself wanted to take avatar on the earth to protect the rishis. And therefore, because of the ahankara, these Jaya Vijaya were born as asuras. That's how the whole episode. And therefore, they wanted to come back to the Lord in 3 births. This is how the verse number 6 ends. We will go to the verse number 7 in the next session. Bhave bhave yata bhaktihi padayostava jayade tada kurusha devesha natastvam nojita prabhu nama sankirtanam yasya sarva bhava pranasanam pranamo dukkana samanaha tam namami harim param. Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Hari Om.